Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Rock and Roll channel. I am Jeremy, excited to be here again. I just got off my Virgin Voyages cruise. I did a vlog about them. It was a good cruise, but compared to past cruises, not as good. But that's okay. We're going to focus on Florida State's offense today and talk about some other things. Now, I have AEW on the ticker there, but we're going to get into that at the end. So I apologize for that. Now, if you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Remember, I am not an insider. I'm just giving my opinion. I love Florida State football as much as anything, as much as anyone, excuse me. There's things I do love more than it. Not much, though. And I just love to talk about it. So I appreciate this platform. And I want to thank people after the last video. People reached out and gave me some questions and just opinions. And I really enjoyed it. I think we should be doing that as a society. Now, I want to get into the offense today, which I'm excited about. I think we've added some good players. Now, obviously, the leadership might not be as good as last year's. The talent's there, and the culture is there. That's the number one thing: is the culture's there, the system's there. If you're going to play at Florida State, you're going to do things the Mike Norvell way, and the way the culture describes calls for it. So I'm excited about that. Now, everyone loves to talk about the quarterback position first, so we will go to that first. We brought in transfer DJ Uwe Ungagale. If I pronounce your name wrong, DJ, I am sorry. I will work on it. Now, DJ really has my interest in a lot of ways, and I'll explain why. Because a lot of people might have just seen him at Clemson and said, I don't know if I want that quarterback here to replace Jordan because Jordan was really good. And I understand that. But if you saw him at Oregon State last year, and I watched him there too, he was a lot better there. And I think the difference is between the two schools was he had much better coaching. He had lost his OC and quarterback coach at Clemson when he was there, and that really hurt his development a lot and also hurt his confidence, obviously. So when he was at Oregon State, much different. And he's coming to Florida State wanting to play for Mike Norvell, respecting Mike Norvell. He's just not here for the heck of it. Then I would have some questions, but that's not the case. He's worked his tail off and done everything you could ask for so far. So I'm curious to see in the spring how he develops. Not just throwing a good pass to a receiver, not just handing the ball off. Obviously learning the offense, but I want to see how he meshes with the offensive line. I think if they can get on the same page, the rest of everything else will fall into place, which is very important. He's got a strong arm, and in the power run game on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, he's going to be tough to deal with. So I think Mike will design some good runs for him just to keep it safe and simple, nothing crazy. And he doesn't have the speed Jordan has. Let's not kid ourselves there. So moving on to the offensive line. Now, I'm excited about this group. We're going to have more depth this year. Hopefully, they can stay healthier, but that's any position, and that's football in general for you. You return your veterans, Maurice Smith, Darius Washington, that you call the Swiss Army knife. That's interesting because in this day and age, you're going to have some depth, even more so because you're going to be playing more games if you want to contend for a national title. Darius can play any position on the offensive line, which is great. And I watched him in the tour of duty, and credit to Josh Sorens for what he has done with this team, getting their bodies right. But he looks even bigger than last year, which is great. So I'm excited about that. Now, tackles. I'm excited about Julian Armella. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to be a guard or tackle. I think he can play either one, but he looks even bigger and meaner this year. He's always been a mean kid in a good way, but it looks like his body is caught up to him. So I'm curious to see I'm hoping he gets in the first or second team because I'm really rooting for that kid. I think if he gets in the first or second team, he's going to show that he can make it at Florida State because a lot of people are critical that he hasn't played the first 2 years. I'm not worried about that part yet. He's put in the work, so it shows in looking at him right now. Because when he came in, he was on the leaner side, and it's taken a little time for his body to catch up, and I think it has now, which is great. You have a lineman from Harvard, Jacob Rizzi, I think. Rizzi's the last name. He could play a bunch of positions too, which will help you. Now, Jalen Early at tackle. I think it's a third-year guy. He's got a shot to maybe start, but be second team if not. Because we have guys who can play 2 or 3 positions, so you're not quite sure. And Alex is really good at cross training and moving guys around. So it's hard to say unless you're a certain player at a certain position like a Maurice Smith, It's really hard to just pin somebody in one spot. A Jalen Early type, a Lucas Simmons, those type of guys who I'm going to get into Lucas in a little bit. Some guys are just built for tackle. Some guys are just built for guard, like Richie Leonard from Florida, which I'm excited about. And you got TJ Ferguson from Alabama. Now, he looks like he may not be ready right away, but that doesn't mean he won't contribute this year. Because a lot of guys need 4 or 5 games to get into the flow of things. So I'm excited about him. Now, tomorrow I'm going to focus on defense, but if I miss some guys on offense, I might go back into it because I don't want to leave things uncovered. I'd rather go back and apologize for not doing it than just not doing it all. So, wide receiver position. Thank you, Ron Dugans. You have stacked the group, along with obviously Mike Norvell recruiting as well. But Ron, you've done a great job. Now, you got Ja'Kai Douglas, your senior leader. I think a lot will fall on him as far as leadership, playing probably 2 or 3 positions at wide receiver. I think he's great at slot. He can play on the outside, even though he's on the shorter side for a wide receiver. But he's dangerous there. We saw in the Pittsburgh game last year. But then that Miami game, remember when Jordan hit him in that slant route? He took it. He is a nightmare to cover in the slot. We have the size on the outside that I would love to see him for his senior year just be in there and eat up defenses. Now, guy, I can't wait to see how he does this spring is Hakeem Williams, sophomore out of Fort Lauderdale. His body has caught up to him. He was a big kid out of high school, but when he came to Florida State, he was a lot of shape, which happens. You're 17, 18 years old. He's taken his conditioning and training seriously, and he looks like a third-year guy ready to go. I think he has the potential to be a first or second-year guy. Excuse me, first, he looks like a 1 or 2 wide receiver. I don't know why I said that. But with a new quarterback, it'll be interesting also to see who he finds his comfort with. That'll be interesting. Jordan was good at finding anybody. Him and Keon developed a bond right away last year. With DJ, it'll be curious to see who his comfort is because you could have 6, 7, 8 receivers. There's always that one guy that you look for, that you trust the most. For Jameis Winston, it was Rashad Green. So I'll be curious about that. And I do date myself a little bit. I like to give examples and context to what I'm talking about. So you've got those guys. Kentron Portier, 5th-year guy. He's good on the outside. I hope he can stay healthier this year. Jaylen Brown, the freshman, this treacherous freshman from Miami, played at LSU last year, transferred over. I'm excited about that guy. He looked great in tour of duty. I understand that was one day, but I look for – he was sitting there coaching up the guys like a true Gulliver kid. I don't know why I said that, maybe because I went there. But anyway, I'm excited about his potential. Now, Malik Benson, transfer from Alabama, a burner, one-on-one on the outside. Good luck trying to cover that young man. And Mike Norvell singled him out after tour duty last week for his leadership and how well he's picked things up. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen on the field. There have been times they talk about a player during the offseason and it doesn't quite carry over. So I'm curious to see how he does. So I know I missed a lot of guys on the offensive line, so I'm going to get back to the offensive line tomorrow because I want to keep this train moving right now. Running back position. I'm excited about this group. Yeah, you lose Trey Benson. I went into how valuable he was to the team and important. But you got some other guys now. You got Toafili, who's been in the system 4 years now, going into his 5th. He's more than a gadget guy and just a speed guy or a wildcat guy. He can get those tough yards. He did last year when you needed him at times. You added Roydell Williams from Alabama, a bruiser. I watched him in the USF game when they needed a big score. He gave it to them. He wasn't supposed to be that high in their rotation, but he found a way in there. So I'm excited about him. He's actually from the same hometown in high school as a guy who played at Florida State named Jameis Winston. So I just find that ironic. Now, you also have Keziah Holmes. People haven't talked about him as much going into this season. He showed flashes last year that he could deliver. He was a transfer from Penn State, sat out a year, and then played last year. And I remember the Duke game, we needed a spark, and he gave it to us when we got a big early touchdown. So I remember that, and I'm looking to see what he can do. Also, a guy that everyone's going to be keeping an eye on, the True Knowles for sure, and anybody, because he was a highly rated recruit, Cam Davis. He says all the right things. He does all the right things. I know he's out of high school early with us, but if you watched him over the years, he was a commitment back his sophomore year. And he was such a humble and mature kid then, and he's the same way now. But what's impressive about him is he looks like he's a third year running back in the system. He's that physically developed. Now, I don't want to see, or don't expect him, let me rephrase that, him to just come in and take over right away. But I'd like to bring him, I think you have the chance to bring him along slowly, have him learn the offense, get comfortable. He's got a chance by that fourth or fifth game to really push yourself into the lineup. If you're that good, coach isn't going to keep you off the field. So when I say bring along slowly, yeah, learn the offense, but you also have to learn how to pass block because that can cost you a big play. And if he's not, and a lot of times I've seen running backs who can do it all right away out of high school, but they screw up in that department or have trouble there, and a coach just won't put him on the field. That'll get you off the field real quick. Not saying that's the case with him, but I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Cam in the spring. I'm glad he's in early. Now, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to the quarterbacks a little bit, and I'm sorry for going all over the place, but I want to mention Luke Kromenhoek, the freshman. I'm excited to see what he can do. He's not ready right away. I think this spring it's going to be a learning, eye-opening experience for him, as mature as he is. But I'm curious to see how he does. Brock Glenn, let's be honest, got a little more experience than we planned on last year. I think spring is going to be interesting to see with those guys who's number 2 out of the spring, or at least out of fall camp. I don't think Luke's ready to contend for the number 2 job after spring. But those are the guys down the line who are going to be competing for the job. And that's why DJ's great because he's a stopgap. Now, I'm going to move on to tight end. I apologize for getting off track there. Tight end, you got Kyle Morlock, 6'8", been in the system a year now, contributed last year. I think his blocking is going to get better this year. He did a great job in his route running last year. He'll be a comfort for DJ as well. Having a 6'8" guy in the red zone or on third down when you need him is nice to have. And he showed he was dependable last year in that type of situation. Jordan did throw to him a bunch. So another year, I think that's better for him. And he's a humble young man. I really like that kid. Now, you lost Marquise Douglas as well, who I was a big fan of, but he did what he had to do. He went to Arizona State to play for former Knoll offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham. I wish him the best. But we have a freshman coming in, Landon Thomas from Moultrie, Georgia. Wow. This kid was number 1 tight end in the nation out of high school. He looks the part, and he likes to block too, which we know that is huge in any offense. I don't care what they say. A tight end that can block can change the running game real quickly. So I'm curious to see if he can work his way into the number 2 job because Jackson West, who's been around for a while, has really reshaped his body and is looking like he wants to be a serious player in that department. And just because you think someone's going to be the starter doesn't mean they're going to be. Kyle doesn't have it guaranteed. Maybe Landon's that good that he starts. Who knows? But I'm curious to see how he does. So that's it for now. I really enjoyed talking about it. I know I'm going to get back to the offensive line tomorrow because I know there's a lot of guys I missed and that they deserve to be mentioned. But mainly tomorrow, I'm going to focus on the defense, the special teams, and I'll talk a little SmackDown preview. And on a lighter note, I just downloaded a new Bon Jovi song. They have a new album coming out, and that's my favorite band of all time. So an older guy in me downloading a Bon Jovi song, talking about Florida State team that's probably going to start the year top 5, top 10. It's like the 90s are back. So I thank you for your time. Please let me know if there's something you want me to cover. I'll be happy to keep that in mind and just interact with me. I really have enjoyed that. I make sure to reply to the comments because why write it if I don't pay attention? So please keep that in mind. I thank you for your time. Oh, let me get into AEW. I'm sorry. I sidetracked. I want to give AEW credit for a great pay-per-view and sending out Sting the right way. I really, in all the build-up to it, I never saw them winning the match, to be honest. I thought the Young Bucks would win, they would get the belts, and Sting would still have a nice send-off. I didn't know if he'd take the pin or not, but I just assumed that. So to have them win Sting and Darby, and Sting finishes his time in AEW undefeated, the legend that he is, I thought that was so cool. So last night, AEW had their big business show. All right, we knew who it was going to be for. We knew it was in Boston, and we were 99% sure it was Mercedes Monet, formerly known as Sasha Banks. Did that get me excited? No. She doesn't really excite me anymore. I think her ego is so big. She tried to play the humble lady last night, and I'm just so happy to be here. No, that's not her. She was at one time. She's not anymore. Do I think she could move the needle for AEW? Maybe. She's a big name, and she has some buzz from when she was in Mandalorian. I hope listen, I hope I'm wrong. I hope she does move the needle. I hope she does help grow the women's division at AEW. I think down the line she wants to be back in WWE and finish her story there. We use that a lot now, obviously because of Cody. So we'll see how that goes. Kazuchika Okada debuted last week. I thought that was awesome. I love Okada. Interesting they made him a heel because he's not going to really get booed by fans, even though he's with two of the biggest heels now, and Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. So it's interesting. I'm glad he's there. And if the numbers are correct and that have been reported that Okada got, good for him. There's reports that he's going to get 13.5 over 4 years. That's definitely changing the wrestling market. That's for sure. So once again, thank you for your time. And if I got off topic a little, I apologize. I'm going to work on that. Thank you for your time. Please comment as I talked about. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Once again, talking about Florida State defense, special teams. We'll talk SmackDown and the road to WrestleMania.